said UFO was archaeological finding, Elizondo shared an analogy to support it. Ross Coulthard's statement on alleged huge UFO buried outside the United States unleashed a storm in the UFO community. He claims that he knows the exact location of the craft, and now UFO enthusiasts are hunting the alleged site where this gigantic immovable craft could possibly be sitting. There's no confirmation from Coulthard about the nature of this craft if it was retrieved. However, some have speculated this could be an archaeological dig. Could this particular craft potentially be a remnant of a bygone civilization? Scientists have explored the possibility of detecting ancient civilizations in Earth's geological record. A recent paper called The Silurian Hypothesis discusses how traces of industrial civilizations could be found. While fossils and artifacts are unlikely to survive over millions of years, anomalous changes in chemical compositions could serve as clues. By studying geological anomalies and applying methods to other planets, scientists hope to understand if civilizations existed in the distant past. NASA has spent many years seeking the truth regarding extraterrestrial life. Furthermore, the space agency never denied the existence of non-human life beyond Earth in any form. It's sufficient to discuss the idea of non-human life existing beyond Earth in any form, from the microscopic to the macroscopic. Professor Avi Loeb, professor at Harvard, has supported the idea that there may have been earlier civilizations on both Earth and Mars, and that these civilizations may have been the origins of what we call UFOs. He writes, planets like Mars or Earth could have given multiple births to technological civilizations that were 1 billion years apart, and hence were not aware of each other. Like stable parents, the planets recovered from the environmental impact of those civilizations over time. We may have been separated in time from siblings that we never had the opportunity to meet, and so we are unaware of their existence, he said. Considering these two possibilities, former Pentagon UFO official Louis Elizondo shared a truly eye-opening statement in his interview with James Yandoli of Engaging the Phenomenon on June 11, 2021. They discussed crash retrievals and materials related to unidentified flying objects, UFOs, or unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs. Elizondo acknowledged the sensitivity of the topic and the potential consequences of discussing it openly, but Elizondo expressed his belief that the U.S. government does possess exotic materials, but could not provide further details due to the lack of transparency from the government. He mentioned that 3 layers of analysis that can be conducted on a piece of material, namely physical, chemical, and anatomic or nano-level research. He suggests that if a piece of material exhibits engineered characteristics and peculiarities outside the normal range of known materials, it raises questions about its origin and the technology used to create it. He concluded by using an analogy of finding an out-of-place object in King Tut's tomb to illustrate the significance of finding advanced materials before our known technology existed. Let's say nickel or aluminum or magnesium or bismuth, then you have to say, okay, who created it and how? And at the end of the day, when you have material that has been found before, supposedly we as a species had technology to engineer it that way. When you've got to ask the question, and this is why I've said before, it's 747. A 747 isn't uncommon to see at an international airport. But imagine being the first guy to break into King Tut's tomb, and all of the things you find in there, you find an intact 747 sitting in the tomb. Does that make sense? Because 747s are not around. Were not around when King Tut was around. So what is a 747 doing at King Tut's tomb? So that's the best analogy that I can use. Without going into further detail, I've tried to be very careful. I don't want to be dismissive of your question because it's an important question. I would ask the same exact question, but I also have to be very, very careful. And if you notice, our other folks like Hal and Eric and others, they're very careful to have this conversation too. So it's not just me. I'm not just paranoid and cagey here. Many members of the UFO community interpreted Elizondo's analogy as a subtle hint that UFOs could be considered as archaeological findings. Surprisingly, on the Joe Rogan Experience, Bob Lazar recalls hearing that at least one of the recovered UFOs was found during an archaeological dig, suggesting that it is ancient rather than simply old. And Rogan asked, "Have you ever asked anyone that has any inkling of any idea of where they got them or how they got them?" Lazar replied, "No, but something must have been said to me from Barry," his lab partner. But I can't quite remember what he said, but it just left a seed in my mind. I think at least one of them was part of an archaeological dig, so it's old. Something that at least one of them is old. I don't know if it was the one I worked on, but I remember something to do with an archaeological dig, Lazar said. Mr. Loeb believes it's possible that some of the technological advancement devices made by early inhabitants of Mars and Earth are still operational elsewhere in the solar system. He suggests that, in that case, old flying gadgets could be a source of some of the unidentified aerial phenomena, and reports from the Director of National Intelligence to the U.S. Congress. Professor Loeb is not alone in thinking of the advanced civilization that once inhabited Mars. Physicist John Brandenburg explained in his 2015 study what could have happened on Mars. The planet that once had an Earth-like atmosphere faced a massive thermonuclear explosion that destroyed its atmosphere. The study considered the Cydonia hypothesis and Fermi's paradox. And this is on House and Wise by Vicky Verma. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. And this sounds also like what was written in the Emerald Tablets by the Atlantean Thoth, who claimed that Mars had the same atmosphere as Earth, and that he, as an Atlantean, was to be credited for the Giza Plateau pyramids, and that he had one of his spacecraft buried under a sphinx in one of the Egyptian pyramid complexes. So he buried one of his spacecraft under a sphinx. We don't know if that has been dug up yet or not. So I do have a playlist of the Emerald Tablets for you to enjoy. He talks, written by Thoth the Atlantean, Hermes Trismegistus, and he has a tremendous amount of information on their very advanced technology that they used to have in antiquity. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.